welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Oh, I can see my breath when I talk. That's nice. I'm tired. I'm not feeling great today. I don't know. Well, so there was an announcement a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago at this point, because the comic came out a few weeks ago. It came out the day before Thanksgiving. And I finally read it yesterday. Now, they've been talking about this for a while, the next big Star Wars event, because they're talking about where do we go with Star Wars. I'm talking about comics, specifically. And they kind of did like what would normally be like a free comic book day kind of thing. Where it's like, here's where this is going from here. Here is where this is going next. Here is what's the next thing we're doing. And in this case, what that thing is Hidden Empire. And we've been hearing about Hidden Empire for a while. Hidden Empire is a continuation of a story set between episodes 5 and 6, because that's where the comic currently is. If you follow this kind of thing, you know the Star Wars comic, when it first started under Marvel, in recent history I'm talking, it was set between episodes 4 and 5, and it told stories there, and it kind of dovetailed and tied in with the other comics that were happening at the same time. Where it's like Aphra was kind of happening around the same time, and the ongoing Aphra comic kind of follows it. The same goes for the Vader comic that was going around the same time. All of these things kind of happened together, and they would cross over with each other and stuff like that, but they would always do that. So what you end up with, in a weird way, with this is, when you look at what was happening with this, it was, Kira is starting to have a more active role. Kira being Emilia Clarke's character from Solo, and her crime syndicate Crimson Dawn. So now they do, as we get toward Hidden Empire, which, if I remember correctly, was supposed to happen this year. Although maybe we heard about it earlier this year and they said January next year. But Hidden Empire is the big event. I've been hearing about this for a while because I talked about it at Comic-Con in 2019 when I was at the Lucasfilm Publishing. I don't know, who cares? The semantics of when this was first announced is irrelevant. But either way, she's got Crimson Dawn, and Crimson Dawn is trying to do stuff. And they've been after Sith artifacts. And now the latest comic, or maybe not the latest, maybe one after it, in the Star Wars pantheon. But in the one that I just read that came out on Thanksgiving Eve, it tells the story of what was going on, like, where is the story going from here? What is the next step? Which is an important question. Where does the story go from here? And what will Hidden Empire be? And what we have Vader going to the Eye of the Bog, or Eye of the Misty Bog. It's a force creature that lives on Mustafar, that, if you know your Star Wars history, I believe was first intended to be introduced in Splinter of the Mind's Eye, if I remember correctly. Maybe I'm conflating multiple things, but it definitely was in an early cut of Rise of Skywalker. So Vader goes to consult with this eye, this bog monster, and they go to and this thing can tell the past, the present, and the future. So it looks at, what's coming and one possible future, and tells Vader, look, shit's gonna go down, you gotta kind of stop it, because it could get worse. Now here's the thing. I think, and take in consideration, I haven't been up to date 100% on the various things that have happened in the comics. I know that early on in the run of between 5 and 6, Vader goes to Exegol and finds out about the Emperor's cloning program and all of that. I know that for a fact. I feel like the other thing that really needs to be, dealt with in this case, like, I think that looking at what's I looking for here? With this, we have the introduction of this thing that we see a lot of DC stuff in this, let's be completely honest. We have a droid robot that's kind of adaptable and can do a bunch of cool shit that comes from the High Republic. It had a brain that was separated from the body when the body was killed by the High Republic Jedi. And what ends up happening is it gets passed down and stolen and heisted and all over the place until it ends up with Han Solo, who ends up burying it, and then it gets found. And that ends up, coming back. That robot's coming back. So that's cool. So we have, Amazo making his first appearance in Star Wars comic. Plus, we also have an appearance from, which is one of those things where it's like, look, cool idea. Really, really cool ideas going around here. But, like, can we do it in a post, in a post-Return of the Jedi world instead of instead of before Return of the Jedi? I think that's my biggest problem with this comic, is that all of the shit that's happening is huge, and it's a vast crossover where it's like, you have all this shit happening all over the universe, or all over the galaxy, and it's like, the High Republic's coming in, and you have Aphra, who's being possessed by the Spark Eternal, which is giving her the powers of an ancient Sith Lord. You have this thing that can take planets or people and put them in this prison that holds them out in suspended animation outside of time. And it's like, we don't know what's in that box, but whatever it is, it's dangerous that what's her name has gotten a hold of it. That Kira has gotten a hold of it. And is there something already in the box that needs to be released? And if it is released, what is it? That I think is the ultimate, question that I have here going into this. It's piqued my interest enough where I kind of want to read Hidden Empire now. And I do really dig that Luke's got the yellow lightsaber. I feel like there's definitely, I feel like this definitely fits in more in a post-Return of the Jedi continuity. And look, in a world where we recast people, and I know it'll be an unpopular opinion. But they could very easily do a show set after, with a new cast playing the original, the original cast. Because you already have Lando with Donald Glover. We already have, what's it called? Who's the other one? Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. And look, casting's not great on that, but he's there. And there are people who will understand that he is Han Solo. We have those characters. I mean, just, back the money truck up to Sebastian Stan and be like, hey, do you want to play Luke Skywalker? Because that'd be, great. You could do that. And then you do for, harder to find someone else to play Princess Leia, but, you know, maybe Millie Bobby Brown. I mean, that's too young. Like, well, no, isn't the actress like 20 now? Well, she'd be in her early 30s, I think. But, like, that's something you could do. You could turn Hidden Empire where it is now. If you put it after Return of the Jedi, you could have made Hidden Empire into the new canon's Heir to the Jedi. Do it where you have the situation where they have to team up. And I know you want Vader in there, but you don't really need Vader in there. And you could do, what's it called? You could do Thrawn instead of Vader, where Thrawn is this bad guy, but in the new canon, he's kind of ambiguous in a weird way. Like, he's not, like, if you just watch Rebels, he's kind of overtly a bad guy, but Thrawn's allegiance exists to his ascendancy throughout the 6 books that are now canon. The 3 Thrawn books and the 3 Thrawn Ascendancy books. It's just one of those things where it would have made, like, that would have worked, I thought. And then you already have Kira cast, that's done. You just bring her back. And then you also bring back, what's it called? If you really want to bring in, you know, there was someone else who I was like, oh, that would be great casting. I just had it and I lost it. I don't know who it is off the top of my head. I don't know. But there is room to do that. They're bringing in other stuff, like Inferno Squadron gets mentioned in this, and it's like, oh, cool. They're mentioning stuff from the video game and the, what's it called? And they did a book, and, you know, there's a ton of room to grow. I think if you did it in a live action, you would have had more eyes on it. I would have appreciated that. I think it would have been cool. It is a shame that they're doing it as a comic. I mean, look, I'll read the comic. The comic is interesting. But the thing is, it's very easy to dismiss comics, or even the books, as kind of like not as canon as a series. And I think that if you want to reinvigorate people's love for Star Wars, I think the move would have been to do this as a live action, or even an animated series. Like, instead of doing all of this animated stuff where it's like, look, I love the Bad Batch, and I love what it did to explain how the Empire coped with Kamino, and the cloning program, and established the Empire as this, out of the gate, you know, we are, you know, order and all of that. I love all of that, and I think it works very well, but I don't think that, you know, no, I don't think that it's necessarily a strong, you know, I don't think it's something that people would, you will get people watching in the same way that, like, you need to have people who have watched the Clone Wars who are like, alright, I will watch a show about 5 clones. And I think that if they did an animated show where it's like, okay, so here's a bunch of characters you know, and we're doing sound-alikes, and it's their adventures in the New Republic, dealing with this organized crime syndicate that has taken advantage of the Empire's destruction and is now taking, like, there's so much great story fodder there that it being put to a comic means it's going to be seen by a lot less people. But that would have been a great animated series, I think. Like, you know. And I think that had Solo not bombed, this definitely would have been a movie. 100% this would have been a movie. But because Solo did abysmally at the box office, it's not going to, it's going to be a comic. Because, like, this is what they were building to. Like, why else would you introduce Kira as the head of Crimson Dawn? And then that's the other thing, too, is that, you know, the next movie could have happened concurrently with that episode in Season 3 or Season 4 of Rebels, where Maul goes to Tatooine and they face off against Obi-Wan, and they have that very short fight. That's just fantastic. And it would have dovetailed so well with that. It's just Solo was not very good. It would have been an interesting change-up, I think. But unfortunately, they're not doing that. What else is there with this? It's an interesting idea. I am totally interested to see where this ends up and where this goes. I can't for certain say where it goes or what happens. Just that it's going to end on a note where it's like... See, I think that's the biggest problem with kind of all the big, broad changes that they're making with, with the comics and introducing Luke to these other things that they're doing now with, like, the High Republican stuff, is that it does change the framing around Return of the Jedi. Whereas, like, if they know all of this, and it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff they now know that they didn't know in the old canon, like, why is it that, why are they just acknowledging that, like, the Jedi texts have all this stuff? And I think it's meant to explain, like, Luke becoming a Jedi, and then also dovetail it in with The Last Jedi, where it leaves Luke off. Like, that I think is the big problem, is that they're trying to serve two masters in that way, where it's like, look, Return of the Jedi is Luke becoming a Jedi Master. And it's him learning from the past Jedi, and him going to all these Jedi temples, and him doing all this stuff to learn the ways of the Jedi and all of that. Okay, I understand that. But at the same time, it also has to be enough to desensitize him to what the Jedi are doing. To the point where he's willing to upend it all, flip it all on its head, and be like, okay, well, when, like, I'm not going to, like, when he fails, and, like, I don't think you really need to do that. I think that when you get to the end of, the end of The Last Jedi, I don't think you necessarily need to, have that laid out in advance. I don't think you, like, I think that they do enough within the confines of the show, of the movie, to explain why Luke is the way he is. Or, if they're going to explain why Luke does that, do a comic set between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens to be like, okay, so this is what causes Luke to take that drastic step and do that. But I don't think you even need that, because I think that the idea of him, like, going to kill his nephew and being like, oh shit, I'm a danger to myself and others, is more than enough for him to be like, I need to remove myself from society, and go off to Planet of the Porgs. I think that's more than enough. If we're being honest, I don't think we necessarily need to do anything else. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, if you haven't read Revelations yet, it's not bad. It's just I'm not a huge fan of the way the art looks, and it is worth a read. It's relatively cheap too. It's only $3.99 instead of the usual $5.99 for a comic. But it is worth a read, because it does give you a nice sense. But the thing is, this should have been a free comic book. I'm sorry. I'm going to put my foot down there. This is essentially a zero issue. This is essentially them saying, we are going to, this is what we're going to do, so get ready, because this is what the next step is going to look like. This is what Star Wars is going to look like in the next major arc. And for something like that, you should be giving it away for free, not charging people for it. Because when you charge people for it, you end up with people going like, okay, well, it's basically a sales pitch, this comic, instead of being a cohesive story. It's just Vader looking into the bog and being like, ah, shit, this is going to happen next. Like, I think that's kind of a problem. That's something that's they're charging for. And I think like this is worth doing. But yeah, we'll wrap up there for today. I think we've covered enough ground on this. So, I don't know what movies come out this week. It's possible there are none. Because it is very possible that they're not releasing anything this week because they're going to be eaten alive next week by Avatar. Although, it could also be women talking. I don't know. I have to... And again, my theater is still only down to 7 screens. And, you know, they have yet to finish renovations. So, I won't know until, you know, later this week. But, as always, I'll talk about it on the show. Whatever I'm going to see next. Because Thursday we have Willow or the Santa Clauses, whichever one I can drag myself to watch first. But we'll wrap up there for today. So, until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.